Noah's unusual behavior had Robert's concerns growing. For the past 3 weeks, Noah, the poodle who usually lounged on the wooden floor in their hallway, had taken up residence next to the baby's crib. And tonight, like every other night, as darkness fell over the neighborhood and the family rested in the next room, Noah became tense. He entered Paul's room and refused to leave. He stood next to the crib with his ears pointed straight toward the darkest corner of the room, his posture becoming motionless and a deep, steady growl coming from his body. Back to that first night, Robert assumed Noah simply wanted to be with Paul, because after 3 days of fever in the hospital, the boy was finally allowed home. But the strange thing was that Noah wasn't sleeping, but was occasionally growling toward the corner near the rocking chair. Robert turned on the nightlight, checked the closet, looked behind the chair, even opened the window to look outside. Nothing was there. No intruders, no squirrels, no stray cats, just darkness all around. Serena had followed Robert and was leaning against the door whispering, "What's wrong?" Robert shrugged and whispered to his wife, "Noah's not okay." Even though the gentle Noah had been an integral part of their family for 3 years, ever since they'd brought him home from the animal shelter, he'd been extremely docile, especially with baby Paul, and the neighborhood kids were eager to stop and pet him. Noah had been nothing but protective and gentle, lying quietly by the crib during naps, his tail wagging whenever Paul made a sound. And the second night and the next, it was the same. Every night, Noah would get restless when they put Paul down. He'd hover near the crib, his neck fur bristling a little, his tail drooping, making a low growl in the same dark corner. It was confusing. Paul was still sleeping peacefully. No one had sensed any strange presence, no signs of rats or any other pests, no signs of a break-in. Nothing. But Noah's behavior continued. After a week, Robert and Serena were starting to worry and be confused. Robert asked his wife if Noah had a vision problem or if the dog was old. But they dismissed those thoughts because just a week ago, Noah had been completely fine, and Serena had suggested taking Noah to the vet for a checkup. The checkup found nothing unusual. Noah was perfectly healthy for a young dog. The vet explained that dogs sometimes react to changes in their environment that humans can't detect, like small sounds or changes in air pressure. And the vet asked the couple, maybe the dog is worried about something new in the environment. Has anything changed at home recently? That led Robert to spend hours observing Noah's behavior and noticed that the dog's growls were not aggressive or threatening. It seemed more like a warning, similar to how he acted when he heard unusual noises outside. Noah never showed any aggression towards Paul. In fact, he positioned himself as if he was trying to protect the baby from something in that corner of the room. In the coming days, they tried everything. Serena placed a chair in the corner that Noah seemed to be focused on, hoping if it changed the visual space, the dog would calm down. No difference. Robert installed a motion-activated camera overnight to record the nursery. The footage showed nothing unusual, just Noah standing guard, growling softly for hours. Robert finally wanted to contact a structural expert the next morning. That evening, Serena suggested in a thoughtful tone, after Noah's strange behavior, recalling the winter of the first year he adopted him. Noah kept barking while looking up at the roof, which turned out to be covered in a thick layer of heavy snow that made the pillars creak. That made Robert examine the baby's room more closely, and as he walked around Paul's crib, he felt a slight cold breeze near the darkest corner where Noah always focused his attention. The wind was barely noticeable, but it made the baby's mobile toy spin slightly. Maybe this was what was bothering the dog. Robert recalled that before adopting the dog, the rescue center had described Noah as being sensitive to changes in the surrounding environment, and with their keen hearing, they could detect sounds far beyond human perception. As Robert prepared to go to bed that night, he observed that Noah was still maintaining his vigilant stance by the baby's crib. He decided that the next morning, he would call a home inspector to inspect the entire house, giving the baby's room a special attention. Clearly something was wrong, and Noah was trying to warn them. Robert patted the dog's head and was grateful for his loyal companion's dedication to protecting their family. The next morning, Robert picked up the phone and called Home Inspection Services and got the earliest appointment they could offer, which was 4 days later. Seeing Noah's actions, time seemed to slow down. His wife suggested moving Paul's crib to the attic before the baby's room was inspected, but Robert hesitated, worried that it would only distort the behavior that Noah had been trying so hard to warn them about throughout the day. Noah's behavior followed a strange pattern that Robert had never noticed before. Every morning, the dog was perfectly happy in the yard and in the child's room, often napping while Paul slept. His demeanor would gradually change at 5 p.m. Noah would start pacing around, sniffing the dark corner of the room, his anxiety increasing as the sun set. Night had fallen, but Robert could not sleep. Whenever he closed his eyes, the image of Noah growling appeared. He told Serena that perhaps he would sleep in Paul's room tonight in the hope of learning more about the dog's behavior. Entering the child's room, Noah still took his usual place beside the crib. Robert shone his flashlight into the corner. Where the dog was staring intently, Robert discovered small cracks in the painted ceiling, spreading like a spider web from the corner of the wall. When he pressed his hand against the wall, he could feel a slight vibration, almost unnoticeable, but Paul was definitely sleeping soundly. All the while, his little chest rose and fell with each breath. The pram above his crib turned slowly in the wind while casting shifting shadows on the wall. Robert noticed that Noah's eyes followed these shadows, but the dog's attention always returned to that corner. His growls deepened whenever the vibration seemed stronger. Serena was watching videos of strange dog behavior in old houses and whispered to Robert there were similar cases like our uncle. Dogs had detected structural problems in other old houses, or that the house had been the scene of a tragedy. But what worried her was why Noah only reacted at night, which sent a chill down her spine as she related it to the video she had just watched. The fear made Serena afraid to go back to her bedroom and decided to sleep on the floor of the child's house tonight. Robert heard a soft growl in the middle of the night. He looked to the corner of the room, and when he got there, he noticed a gust of wind that was more pronounced than during the day. Something strange was about to happen when he walked around the room to check it out again. Every time he got close to the corner of the room, Noah would move and stand between him and the wall. Serena, who was behind him, saw the dog's actions and a wave of gratitude welling up inside her for Noah's unwavering vigilance. Dogs had instincts and senses far beyond human comprehension, and it was clear that Noah was trying to protect this family. The home inspector might not have arrived sooner, but Serena found comfort in knowing that their loyal companion was guarding Paul's sleep. Serena called her husband to go to their bedroom to sleep because she knew that Noah would still be in the child's room, guarding, and perhaps they would discover something, which would only become clear after the home inspector arrived. The next morning, Robert woke up while running around the gymnasium and talked about the winds in the room with the elderly man next door who had lived in the house next door for 40 years. It was by chance that after the big storm that had just passed, the neighbor's wall had also been soaked with rainwater. Similar to his own, the wall behind Paul's nursery. The next day, a home inspector named Laura arrived. She was a wiry woman with silver-rimmed glasses, a friendly smile, and a belt full of tools. Robert explained the situation, feeling somewhat silly. Our dog keeps growling at a corner of the nursery. We've checked everything. No pests, no intruders. We're worried maybe it's a structural issue. Laura nodded seriously, unfazed. You'd be surprised at how many times pets pick up on problems long before we notice. Let's take a thorough look. They started outside, examining the roof, gutters, and siding. Laura frowned at a section of gutter that seemed to sag slightly. This might be allowing water to seep into the siding, she noted. They walked around the side of the house. Laura peered closely at the foundation, then at the siding near Paul's room. She tapped lightly on the wooden beams supporting a small overhang and frowned. Inside the nursery, Laura took out a moisture meter and placed it against the wall in the corner Noah had been fixated on. The device beeped softly, showing higher readings than normal. She knelt and examined the baseboards and flooring near the corner. Then she pulled out a small camera probe to peek into the wall cavity through an existing hole where cable wiring emerged. Her posture stiffened slightly as she inspected. "There's definitely moisture infiltration," she said quietly. "Looks like water's been getting in for a while. There might be some rot in the wooden supports behind these walls." Robert and Serena exchanged worried looks. "Is it serious?" Serena asked. Laura sighed. "Potentially. If the wooden beams and supports are compromised, that could mean the structure around this area is weakened. Over time, that can lead to serious problems. I need to check the crawl space or basement for additional signs." Downstairs, Laura found more evidence. Some of the supporting beams looked damp and partially rotted. Although it hadn't become catastrophic yet, the moisture had weakened the wood. This could cause subtle vibrations and shifts in the night, especially as temperature changed. Noah, with his acute hearing and senses, likely detected these minute changes, creaks, drips, the smell of rot long before human occupants could. "Back upstairs," Laura explained. "Your dog might have been sensing the instability. Maybe he heard the gentle creaks as the house settled awkwardly, or smelled the damp rot. He's guarding Paul because he perceives a threat. Not a burglar, but something dangerous nonetheless, a compromised structure." Serena's hand flew to her mouth. Paul's crib was near that very corner? If the beams weakened further and something shifted, who knew what could happen? The house might not collapse outright, but a partial failure of support could cause floors to buckle or worse. Robert's mind raced. He realized that Noah had been trying to protect them all along. No growling at ghosts or imaginary intruders, he was warning them, night after night, that something was wrong. The dog finally relaxed a little as everyone realized the threat the dog had detected. The inspector recommended immediate repairs, emphasizing that the situation, although serious, could be completely resolved. With experience in handling many similar cases, she provided them with a detailed report and referred them to several reputable contractors who could handle both exterior water issues and interior damage. That evening, as they waited for the contractor's estimate, Noah remained vigilant next to the crib, but there was a difference in his demeanor. His growls were softer, almost as if he knew that help was finally on the way. Robert and Serena had temporarily moved Paul's crib into their room on the inspector's advice until the repairs could be completed. As Serena moved the last of the baby's belongings out of the room, she looked into the corner of the room and felt extremely grateful to Noah for her dog's persistence. Noah had discovered a serious problem weeks before either Robert or Serena had noticed. The next week was filled with the sounds of hammers, saws, and drilling. Robert and Serena hired a reputable contractor to remove the rotted wooden supports, repair the water-damaged section, fix the gutter and siding problem that allowed rainwater to seep in, and reinforce the structure. During the repairs, Noah stuck close to Paul as usual, but without the same tense vigilance or growling. Noah still checked on Paul frequently, but now his posture was gentle, ears relaxed, eyes soft. Serena watched the contractor's work with a mixture of gratitude and concern. She was thankful that nothing catastrophic had happened, that they'd caught the problem in time. The thought of what could have occurred if the house's structural issues had worsened made her shudder. It was a reminder that safety wasn't just about keeping burglars out. Sometimes the danger was hidden within the walls themselves. In the evenings, as they waited for the repairs to finish, they'd gather in the living room. Paul played with blocks on the floor, babbling happily. Noah lay beside him, occasionally sniffing the child's head or wagging his tail softly. Serena and Robert would sip tea and reflect on the strange series of events that led them here. "It's amazing," Serena said one night, watching Noah rest his head on his paws. "He saved us. He warned us about a danger we couldn't even see." Robert nodded, his gaze drifting to the quiet. "We owe him so much. We owe it a lot. We always knew dogs were sensitive, but this was beyond anything we could have imagined. We trust him. He trusts us. That's what family is about." After 2 weeks of steady work, the contractors wrapped up. They had replaced the rotted wood, sealed up the leaks, rebalanced the gutters, and added reinforcement to the structure. The nursery's corner now felt solid. The musty smell of damp wood had vanished. The subtle creaks at night subsided. To celebrate, Robert and Serena redecorated Paul's room a bit, rearranging the furniture to give the space a fresher feel. They moved the crib slightly away from the corner, hung a new mobile over it, and placed a plush rocking chair by the window. When they showed Noah the finished room, he trotted in, sniffing around, ears high and tail wagging softly. He padded over to the crib's old position, sniffed the corner, and found nothing amiss. No growl, no tension. He returned to Serena's side, nudging her hand gently. She understood his silent approval. That first night back in the repaired nursery, Paul fell asleep easily after a warm bath and some lullabies. Noah followed Robert and Serena in, watched them tuck Paul in, and lay down near the crib as usual. Robert hovered, waiting, half expecting Noah to start his strange behavior. But the dog just relaxed, his eyes half closed, breathing evenly. It was as if the alarm in him had turned off. The danger was gone. Robert switched on the baby monitor and dimmed the lights. Serena leaned over the crib and kissed Paul's forehead, whispering, "You're safe now." She kissed Noah's head too, grateful beyond words. They left the room quietly, the soft hum of the nightlight all that remained. Noah did not leave immediately. He stayed there a few minutes longer, as if verifying that everything was indeed secure. Then he followed Robert and Serena into their bedroom and settled down in his usual spot at the foot of the bed. In the following days, life returned to its normal, comforting routine. Robert went off to work. Serena managed her freelance design projects from home, and Paul learned new words and attempted his first wobbly steps. Noah returned to his easygoing self, greeting the mailman with gentle enthusiasm, playing tug-of-war with his chew toys, and sleeping in sunny spots on the living room floor. Serena often found herself reflecting on what had happened. She recalled nights spent anxiously searching Paul's room, trying to calm Noah down. At the time, it had felt eerie, like an invisible threat hovered in the corner. Now she knew that Noah was reacting to something very real, just not visible to human eyes. She remembered an article she had read long ago about dogs' extraordinary senses, how they can smell cancer, detect low blood sugar in diabetics, or warn their owners of oncoming seizures. Perhaps Noah's growling at that corner was a cousin to these remarkable instincts. He had sensed rot and instability, heard minute creaks and drips of water, felt the subtle shift in the floorboards. In his own way, he had been yelling, "Danger!" Robert, too, felt a deeper bond with Noah after the incident. Every morning, Robert often shares their story with other parents at the park, emphasizing the value of observing their pets. Animal behavior perceives things beyond our own perception, he says, as Noah plays happily with Paul on their picnic blanket. What may seem like strange behavior may not be strange at all. They are trying to communicate something important. The community veterinary clinic even asked Robert to share their experiences at a pet owner's workshop, using Noah's story to illustrate how animals often detect dangers in the home before humans do. Serena has created a simple presentation that includes photos of the wall damage and Noah's alert behavior to help other families understand the importance of taking their pets seriously. Paul, of course, remained blissfully unaware of how close their family had come to a potential disaster. He would grow up in this home, never knowing that he had been protected at such a young age by their faithful dog. Still, Robert and Serena would tell him the story someday when he was old enough to understand. They would recount how Noah had warned them, how they had listened, and how they had acted in time. And now Paul is sleeping soundly. Noah the dog has returned to his usual spot near the crib, but instead of standing alert and growling, he has fallen asleep peacefully, occasionally lifting his head to check on Paul before lying back down. Did you like this story? What do you think about the bond between dogs and children? Is it too dangerous to leave them together? Let us know in the comments below. If you like Noah the dog, please subscribe to the channel now and leave a like. The message of the story to us is that the people who love us can actually save our lives. Thank you very much for watching and listening. See you in the next story. Have a great day.